When was the last time you saw a Nobel laureate fighting a case of genocide? I'm asking this because the world witnessed an unusual sight today at the International Court of Justice. Aung San Suu Kyi, the State Council of Myanmar, was personally defending her country's armed forces over charges of genocide against the Rohingyas. Now, before I delve into what happened at the court, let me say this. What a shocking turn of events it has to be for Suu Kyi. Once the most admired Burmese icon and a toast of the liberal world, she now seems like an apologist for the army which jailed her for 15 years. So has Suu Kyi really failed to champion the issues of human rights? Or was she and her image just a myth portrayed by us, the media? We'll explore in this report. Let's start by talking about this case. This is the first international legal attempt to hold Myanmar accountable for the Rohingya crisis. Leading the charge is Gambia, a small Muslim-majority nation in West Africa. To many, this may seem a little odd. A state suing another state over an issue it is not directly involved with. But Gambia is not alone. It has the backing of the 57-member Organization for Islamic Cooperation, the OIC. It's the first such case that even the International Court of Justice is hearing. And it's significant. The World Court will not just be deciding on the allegations against Myanmar, which may take many, many years. If the ICJ is convinced about a case, it will impose provisional measures, which is basically an injunction or a restraining order. This means stopping the ongoing genocide if there is a genocide and preserving the evidence for the bigger case. This, as I said, is unprecedented, and who better than the head of the government to defend Myanmar? It's good PR too. Aung San Suu Kyi's defiance plays well to her Buddhist majority audience, and elections are coming in 2020. Addressing a bench of 17 judges, Suu Kyi dismissed all charges of state violence against the Rohingya. She blamed the conflict on an uprising by separatists and insurgents. The 74-year-old leader came prepared. She displayed detailed maps of the Rakhine state, which according to her showed the first assaults on her security forces dating back to 2016. Take a look at what she said.
Regrettably, the Gambia has placed before the court an incomplete and misleading factual picture of the situation in Rakhine State in Myanmar. Yet, it is of the utmost importance that the court assess the situation obtaining on the ground in Rakhine dispassionately and accurately. The situation in Rakhine is complex and not easy to fathom, but one thing surely touches all of us equally: the sufferings of the many innocent people whose lives were torn apart as a consequence of the armed conflicts of 2016 and 2017. In particular, those who have had to flee their homes and are now living in camps in Cox's Bazar. Mr. President, it cannot be ruled out that disproportionate force was used by members of the defense services, in some cases in disregard of international humanitarian law, or that they did not distinguish clearly enough between ARSA fighters and civilians. There may also have been failures to prevent civilians from looting or destroying property after fighting or in abandoned villages. But these are determinations to be made in the due course of the criminal justice process, not by any individual in the Myanmar government. Please bear in mind this complex situation and the challenge to sovereignty and security in our country when you are assessing the intent of those who attempted to deal with the rebellion. Surely, under the circumstances, genocidal intent cannot be the only hypothesis.
Now, allow me to say something uncomfortable. There are falls from grace, and then there's Aung San Suu Kyi. Because one cannot help but remember 1991, the contrast between Suu Kyi winning the Nobel Prize for Peace, for standing up against the military, and a speech at the ICJ today as a chief denier of the military shenanigans is astonishing. We're talking about someone who herself spent 15 years under house arrest thanks to the military. She was an activist who gave up her own freedom to stand up to the ruthless generals who ruled Myanmar for decades. The woman who stood up on tables outside her family home turned prison to make fiery speeches against the army. 28 years down the line, she's now in the army's corner. Her transformation from a celebrated campaigner to someone who's always giving excuses for genocide and ethnic cleansing is appalling. Look at these images now. These are Rohingya Muslims participating in prayer rallies against Suu Kyi in refugee camps. As of September this year, there are more than 900,000 such refugees in Bangladesh. That's a big number. And these people are all of them insurgents and extremists. Bangladesh has even set up a voluntary return scheme for them, but not a single Rohingya has chosen to go back home. Why is that? Because Myanmar considers Rohingyas illegal immigrants from Bangladesh. This is despite the fact that Rohingya families have lived in the Rakhine state for generations. Bangladesh, in return, considers them Burmese. They're nobody's people. They're stateless. What has been Suu Kyi's response to the crisis? Towing the military line. Her support for the army's campaign against the Rohingyas has even stripped her of a prominent human rights award. For now, there are 3 major legal cases pending, both against the Myanmar army and the leader, Aung San Suu Kyi. And a decision to hit the mat for Myanmar's general speaks a lot about the country's so-called democratic transition.